Hey guys, just putting a disclaimer at the beginning of this video. Sorry for the long wait. My drive died and with all my programs and information, and so I've got no replacement, and I've reinstalled my OS and done all that good stuff, so I should be back up and running reasonably well. I'll be trying to make a few new videos in the next few weeks. Not necessarily about gameplay, maybe just chatting. Basically, I want my channel to be more of a reflection of my own time and not just of gameplay and anything like that. It's gonna, I'm probably gonna start uploading like random things that I find interesting that I think might be worth other people listening to. I have no idea if this stuff will be interesting to everyone who might see it, but I hope it's interesting and I find it interesting. Yeah, thank you for watching and stay tuned, I guess.
Well, they're similar, but that is pretty much what faith is supposed to be. It's believing in something even if you don't necessarily have the adequate reason to believe in it.
Well, you could say that essentially faith is just hope, but given a different definition to place it within a religious
I would say hope
idea.
is more wanting something to be true, regardless of.
Well, that's sort of what faith is. It's wanting something so
'cause
badly
faith
you
is
accept it as
belief.
real.
Yeah,
Faith
'cause
is like
that's different. Like, yeah, that I would say that's the key distinction. Hope is like, this is the ideal thing that I would like to happen, sort of thing. This is what I want to be true. Whereas faith is what I think is true.
Here's a nice. I've got an example. Like, I hope that reincarnation is true, but I don't believe in reincarnation.
You don't have faith that it exists.
using another example, your child is kidnapped. You may hope they're alive, but you don't necessarily believe they're alive.
Yeah.
Like, you don't sort of feel it in your bones that they're definitely alive.
Yeah. I hope that people are good. I don't have faith that people are good. Some people do.
We
Those
do
people
what
could,
we
yeah.
must.
So, would hope be an emotion or an outlook? A perspective, I guess.
I don't know, I think hope would be an emotion. You could say that faith would be more of an outlook.
Fear I smell.
Because faith is sort of making a statement. That I believe.
see,
I would
I-
say would be the concept of, like, it would be linked to emotion, definitely, because it's about wanting something, desiring something. However, like, hope in concept is more than that, because it's also, it's understanding that it's unlikely, but you still wish it to happen. It's actually delving more into how the emotion interacts with your logic, sort of thing.
Yeah,
rather
because
than
you
purely
definitely...
being based on emotion.
It's described as you feel hope, or you have hope. So I would say hope and faith would be not the same thing, but the same class of thing.
Yeah,
because you also...
I agree. They are both, to me, sort of ways of describing how emotion interacts with your way of thinking. They're both based in emotion, but I wouldn't say they are
finally.
emotions.
No, yeah.
See,
I
I
agree
would
with
say hope. Not saying faith is, although by proxy saying they're both the same would make faith one. But I would say hope is, I would say, an emotion, because you can ask, how are you feeling? Hopeful. Like, you can feel hope.
My
And
thinking on it.
emotions are feelings.
Yeah, my thinking on it is that you don't really feel hope until you lead through some thoughts. Like, it doesn't really come to you instinctively. You have to see something, you have to think something, and then you will feel hope. Whereas fear or, I guess love or joy, those things just sort of happen. You can see something and suddenly be joyful.
Also, I would say feeling something doesn't necessarily make that thing an emotion. So, like, you can, like, this is a bit more abstracted to really be a complete transfer, but for example, like, you can feel cold, sort of thing. It's a different type of feeling, I know, but like, it's that sort of distinction. I think you can feel something without it necessarily being an emotion itself.
Yes. Although, cold is you are...
Yeah, like, I
your
do agree.
environment, you can't
It's
sense
a bad
hope.
example, but like,
You are right.
I do think that that's
See, god damn it, I'm trying to look it up on Wikipedia, and it's right. It says hope is an optimistic attitude of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes, and that's great. Fine. So hope's not an emotion. Its opposites are dejection, hopelessness, and despair. Well, if you ignore hopelessness, they're fucking emotions, so it's opposite.
And hopelessness is just
despair,
a clear
yes.
opposite.
despair
Apparently,
an emotion.
hope is an emotion.
Well, no, necessarily.
Faith
Despair isn't
on
necessarily a
list.
fucking.
Yeah, I would say
emotion.
that faith isn't one just because it's
It would seem,
Oh, you're fucking.
of all the like list of emotions or whatever, hope is there, faith is not.
Well,
So,
I mean, I was just saying I wouldn't consider despair an emotion either, because despair is a very deep sort of sadness and fear that you have to sort of reach that point. You have to consider your situation, and then you might feel despair. But you
the
don't
reason
feel
I
despair.
disagree with you there is because you just said despair is a greater version of an emotion.
Well, no, it's.
well,
The main point I was saying was you have to feel a certain amount to get there, but then you also have to consider your situation, which then that sort of builds the amount of emotion you feel. You have to think about, okay, is there any way? And then you have to know there isn't.
no,
And that
I
realization is despair.
now
You
we're
can
kind of
feel
getting
immediate
into
despair.
more philosophical aspects of it, where it's just like different ways of looking at it almost. Because we
Yeah.
are currently essentially discussing what the differences are between, like, and the interactions between emotion and the other aspects of the mind. So it's very the lines between them are quite blurry. It's not always clear cut.
I would say despair is almost certainly an emotion.
I would actually agree with you on that one. I think despair absolutely is. I think hope might be, but I'm dubious. But I don't think faith is at all.
I
however,
see.
Faith I am willing to compromise on not being an emotion, but hope I would say
I see it
is.
differently. Like I see emotions more as sort of like a color palette, like not necessarily with the same numerical factors, but like saying despair is a emotion to me is like saying a painting is a color. It's an amalgamation of colors put together in a way that that leads to the interpretation of something.
Sad, my sister's in the bathroom.
Yes, and
Hold the
I do-
presses.
I do get your point that it's like saying a painting is a color. I will agree that emotional states come from an interaction of emotions. However, I don't know. I could accept the point that maybe despair is built up of a couple of emotions, but then I would still say it is emotional in sort. Although actually I would say that despair is not. Other than maybe extreme. No, because sadness can be done without giving up, whereas despair isn't.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is you can't get despair without a situation. You can't just be despairing for no reason. You might like for instance, if you have a mood swing, right? You can you can get angry, you can get happy, you can get sad, but you're not going to get a deep-seated despair because that builds up from a lot of different factors. It's just an
no,
emotion you feel.
I disagree. For example, I would say just depression. You'd feel a lot of despair.
Yeah, but depression is a very complex mental illness that
No,
like
I think he's talking about depression, the emotion, not the
oh.
illness.
I was actually talking about the illness.
Oh.
I was just saying that, like, when a depressed person could suddenly feel.
Well, yeah,
despair.
because it's
I'd
a
say-
mental illness. It triggers those
Also, depression
ideas in
is-
your brain. Like you don't
Like-
feel despair randomly from depression. You feel despair from depression because it manipulates your thinking into putting you in a situation where you would feel despair.
Well, the
Okay,
primary-
bad example,
Yeah, I
but
would say bringing depression into this isn't quite fair because that's more the remove of the
right,
toxic
yes,
emotions.
yes, I know. Yeah, what I was looking, yeah, bad example. I don't need it told why it's a bad example. Trying to think of an example that would suddenly make you feel despair. Oh no, Bruce Wayne. I imagine one of his emotions was despair, with both parents dead on the ground.
But yeah, but still, that's an amalgamation of a situation. He's just watched both of his parents be killed.
Yeah, but then
and
all emotions.
the fears
Yeah,
and
all
sadness.
emotions are reactions to situations.
Not necessarily all emotions. Like,
Well, yeah,
it's-
you can
it's
have,
an-
like, random mood swings, but that's not really.
that's
Most
sort of my
emotions
point.
are
Most
reactions.
emotions are bred from a situation, yes, but it's the ones you
chemicals
feel.
in your brain being released as a result of
See you in a bit.
stimuli.
Yeah, and I'm saying that despair is a certain mixture of those chemicals, and I don't consider that mixture an emotion in and of itself.
I would say a mix of emotions. Like, you could definitely classify a mix of emotions as a specific one. Like,
Shit.
Oh, apparently depression is an emotion as well.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
yeah, yeah.
Depression is.
Yeah.
It's just intense sadness, basically.
Mm.
It's also why when people go, oh, I have depression, other people just go, oh, why don't you just like try and cheer up then?
Not that this is much of a point, but I don't care, fuck you.
That's a great start.
Despair. For the mood disorder, see major depressive disorder.
Huh? Well, why is that a point?
No, he's just talking about how the depression and despair are linked, basically.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But yeah,
I.
but
But
no, it's,
I said
he
it.
didn't. Yeah, he predisposed before he said that. Oh, I'm not saying this means anything.
No.
Like,
Because it doesn't.
but why the fuck are you even bothering saying that shit? Like, that was addressed at you guys, not Baker. I actually.
Fucking despair redirects to depression. Like, the mood, not the disorder. But it directly, I click on despair and it's like, depression. Yeah, that's the key part of despair, hopelessness. And I think hope can be ripped away in an instant, which allows for instant reaction of despair.
See, I would say that would be somewhat adequate. So, like, hope would be something, wouldn't necessarily be an emotion, but it's definitely linked
But
to it.
we're having a complication of descriptions here. Essentially, like I was saying, I see emotion as sort of a spectrum of color. So, but the difference is when I see all those colors mixed in a complex way, I don't call it an emotion. Whereas if you see it mixed, you consider it sort of mixing of different palettes to create a new color.
Yeah.
It's just a difference in definition.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant when I was saying we're now kind of delving into the philosophical aspects of it. This is more like down to our own personal ways of looking at this rather than...
Yeah, I guess
Anything
what
else?
I've been arguing is that despair, using your metaphor, isn't a mixture of colours, it's a colour in its own right. Is
Well-
what the point I've been trying to make.
Well, yeah, but like Rog said, essentially, it's like, for you, it's a colour in its own right, but it derives from other colours being combined, whereas...
No, in its
No,
own
that's
right
not-
means
that's-
it is on its
Yeah.
own.
Yeah, that's
oh,
not what
really?
I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm
thought-
saying
I thought
despair
previ-
is despair,
I
not...
thought previously you had conceded that it was a mixture of, like, a couple different ones, like fear and sadness and stuff.
No, I said how I could see it being like an extreme form of sadness. So for when Rog was saying how you need to incrementally get to despair through, say, being sad, then getting more sad, and then
I don't
outright
think I
despair.
agree with that bit.
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily has to be an incremental thing. It's not like a stage thing. It can happen suddenly, but it requires, unless you consider like, you know, mental illnesses, things out of the norm, it requires a certain situation. It requires certain things to happen to be
put it this way:
be in existence.
you can draw parallels for like irritation leads to anger, leads to rage, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't just suddenly be angry. Like, you don't have to be irritated before you be angry. Something can just go snap. You are angry now. In the same sense that you don't have to go through the different stages of grief and sadness to get to being in despair. You can just be in despair if something strong enough happens.
Although I would argue irritation is not an emotion.
But why not?
Yeah, I would.
Because irritated is an action. If you are irritated, something is like, I guess, rubbing you up the wrong way, causing a reaction. Anger is the response to irritation.
No, I would disagree with that.
That's what I'm saying. Despair is.
Anger
I'm
is
saying
the response. Anger, I would say, is the reaction. Your response would be then based from anger. Like, you can say someone is acting angrily, but you don't say, you just angered.
Yes, you do. What? That's perfectly within the realms of the English
You
language.
just angered.
Well, you just angered me, or you
But-
just angered.
No,
He's saying that
but
angered
angered
isn't
me-
a
no,
verb.
I'm saying you can't... Anger isn't a doing word. There is no verb to anger. Well, no, there is to anger, but like that's different. I mean, like, you don't... If I do something, you don't say that I... Like, say I did something, it doesn't annoy you or it doesn't anger you or anything, but I did it out of anger. You don't say that I angered. You say you did that out of anger.
Yeah.
That's the distinction I'm making. You can't... I don't think that anger is an action that you take. It's a state you are in.
Yeah, I don't remember saying anger is an action you take. I remember saying that irritation is not an emotion.
Well, no. What you said not that long ago, when he said you don't just say you just angered, you said yes you do. I mean, I don't think
Well,
he
no,
meant
no,
that.
before
That's because I misunderstood him. But I'm on about before. I'm trying to ask what that's in reply to, because I don't remember saying anything.
I don't remember what you...
He was saying that irritation isn't an emotion; it's an action.
Yeah, like,
So you are irritated, and that causes you to be angry. Like, irritated is an emotion, it's an action done upon you. I have been irritated.
I would
no,
argue
because it's
it
also
can be a
state.
mix.
I am irritated.
Yeah, it's a mix because someone can be deliberately irritating.
Yeah, it's in just the same sense that someone can anger you, they can irritate you. But that's not... Yeah. I would say they're both emotions, they both trigger in the same way.
Whereas I would take the reverse stance and say that neither of them are emotions.
You wouldn't say
or
anger.
irritation.
No, not that. I thought you meant despair and fucking irritation.
Oh, you don't think irritation is an emotion?
No. It's the same way I don't think despair is an emotion.
Whereas I think despair is, and irritation is not.
You think irritation is like a state that is a mix of emotions.
Yeah. Like, I see it as there being sort of, I guess, if you will, prime emotions. And those are sort of the things that I would classify as emotions.
So like
Everything else is a
anger.
mix of that. Anger, joy, sadness. Some other ones I can't be asked to think about. You know, that sort of idea, though. It's not something I've discussed, so I haven't thought about it too deeply because I haven't been required to. Well, I mean, it's not something I've really thought out. You know, I get it myself, but not necessarily enough to explain it coherently.
Yeah, no, for me, like, irritation is like, it's when you start getting annoyed at things. It's like,
Then you would be annoyed.
I would say annoyed and irritated are synonyms.
Yeah.
It's a form of discomfort, basically.
It would have to be a very small difference between the two if there was one, but I can't think of any. So I would so far say yeah, I agree with you. The Wikipedia
I mean,
thing.
I might be a bit like being slightly biased because I'm currently looking at the emotional world, the emotion wheel, which I don't entirely agree with, but I think is a decent baseline.
Yeah, I'm doing the same with the Wikipedia emotion guide. But yeah, what it says here is irritability is an excitation response to stimuli, usually used to refer to anger or frustration. Irritability can be a growing response to objective stimuli or of hunger or thirst in animals. So yeah, I would say you are irritated is more of a hunger can be irritating because that is a constant thing. You are being irritated by your hunger. I wouldn't say that you could.
I would say based on the description you just gave me, it actually backs up the point that it's an emotion, personally.
No, because what it's saying is irritability is
Like, I would say everything that you just described about irritability pretty much could also be said about anger.
yes, and anger is an emotion.
Yes, so why would irritability not be an emotion?
Because
If literally everything you just said about irritability also applies to anger. Like, that's my point. I would say if you were to replace irritability in that with anger, it would still fit. It would still describe an emotion.
yeah, although it's saying irritability is usually used to refer to anger or frustration. For me, irritability is more of a like action to be done on someone. So like you can irritate someone till they're frustrated or angry, but sometimes you can irritate someone into despair. I would say it's an action upon. Like, if you are irritated...
No, because, because you can be irritated without someone trying to irritate you. In the same way, you can be angered without someone trying to anger you.
Yeah, but I would say it's irritating you into, like, frustration. I wouldn't say...
I would say the state itself would be irritated, rather than you are irritated until you are a state.
I just can't fight Nasus. He just kills me at every stage of the game.
Yeah, he's really fucking OP at the moment.
I guess thinking about it more, I could say that I could agree with you that things like despair and all that are emotions. I was kind of thinking about it. It doesn't make any sense to me that I could essentially think of the mixtures of paint. Like I could think of it as a painting, but the difference is a painting is made with urgency. It has thought behind it. It has intention behind it. So
I don't know about urgency. I agree with everything else.
No, you're thinking of urgency in a different form than I am. Urgency is a human urgency, sort of like an actor, an action sort of thing.
An urge, rather than...
Yeah, it's done with
like
thought.
A sense of speed, it's
I think you might mean agency? Because agency is the sense that it has to have someone doing it, so you would be the agent of...
agency, I believe is what you meant, actually.
Yeah, no, you're right. But, oh shit.
I love when they're trying to play Legion.
But no, it doesn't make any sense that I would compare the two, because as a metaphor, it just doesn't work. Because one is a painting is a very different thing than, let's say, despair. Though the metaphor, they are still a mixture of emotion. It's a mixture. It's like mixing it on the palette, not putting it on the canvas, or the paints falling into one another and creating that mixture, sort of thing. So it is still an emotion. I would argue still that it's a mixture of emotions, and I wouldn't consider it a prime emotion, but it is an emotion. But I don't know if you would disagree or agree with that, because we haven't talked about it.
Fair.
But no, you've convinced me.